and welcome to Cutscene Conversations, Season 2, Episode 6. You know, it's difficult for me to keep up, Tim.
Yes, I know.
So,
Well, and I'm going to break the fourth wall a little bit here. We don't film these in order.
don't tell them that.
We have to go back and figure it out. No, we have a schedule, and this week we're joined by Mr. Adam. Say hi, Adam.
Hello.
I really wanted him to say
Look,
hi, Adam.
I about did. I
Hi,
almost
Adam.
did. Hi, Adam.
There we go.
So,
There you go. Well, Adam, welcome to the second season, which includes cameras, as you can see.
yeah,
I can see that.
they can see you too.
Also changed a little bit of the format. We don't do dad jokes anymore.
Unless you got one. If
But
you
here's
got
the
one,
thing: if you're a guest and you have one, you're more than welcome to share.
So should I share it?
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
yes, you should.
Okay.
All right.
Why did the astronaut get out of the spaceship?
I thought he was going to share a different one. Why did the astronaut get out of the spaceship, Adam?
He needed some space.
Oh my goodness.
Well, just as bad the second time. All right.
Yes.
Awesome.
Awesome.
But what we do now is some would you rathers.
All right. You want me to do mine, or you got your? You want?
Oh, I think mine's a really low
It
ball.
is.
Yeah. So, would you rather have a cat-sized elephant or an elephant-sized cat?
Yep.
Cat-sized elephant.
100%. I'm right there with you.
Yes, I agreed. Until I was like, what if it's a chill cat?
But see, I'm not a cat guy.
Me either.
I'm
But
not-
They're
I could
mean.
Be, I could be an
they
elephant
are
guy.
typically mean.
with one like
What if it's a
big?
mean elephant? You know, like a little
Oh, no.
terror of an elephant,
Punt the elephant.
right?
Yes.
Right. But what I mean, the benefits of having a gigantic cat,
Can you imagine?
dude. Could you imagine
Yeeting
rolling
an
up
elephant.
to Walmart on a cat?
No.
Saddle that guy up, bro.
You'd get shot.
Well, you'd get something probably.
Nah.
Can you imagine the money you can make off of a cat-sized elephant, though?
Yes.
Yeah, but you can make money off of an elephant-sized cat.
Yeah, but there's people that would shoot that.
There's people that would shoot the elephant.
Nah, I doubt it.
It would be cute though. It'd be a little ugly because you know its face would probably be squished and it'd be ugly.
Could you poke its eye?
I think it would probably sound more like a squeaky toy.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, here we go. Here we go. Would you rather earbuds that never sit right in your ears, or have all music either slightly too quiet or slightly too loud?
Oh no, that's horrible for me. I don't like any of those options.
Neither do I.
Right. Well,
So
the goal is to make these difficult.
I will tell you right now that I have bought new earbuds, put them in, they didn't sit right, threw them away. Like I'm done. Like these do
you
not
take
work
things
for me.
back to the store.
Yeah, you can. Is it worth it for $12? Meh. But now I have earbuds that fit perfectly. And I mean exercising and everything.
So too quiet or too loud or fits perfect.
I have to have a fit perfect. I'll deal with loud and quiet.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
It's gotta fit right.
I think for me it's the other way around. I think I'd rather them be obnoxious because I think for me personally, my ears are gigantic a lot, you know, and I've never had earbuds that fit right, so I've always experienced that. So it's easy for me just to choose. I'd rather it be spot on, perfect, like spaghetti is perfect.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss.
But
Yeah.
see, if you work out, they fall out.
Yeah.
well,
so here's the thing, right?
You know it.
Mr. Jesse doesn't really work out.
Okay, fair.
I have seasons before. I did kickboxing 2 years ago for about 9
but that's
months.
not an earbud workout.
No, that's a guy
Right?
yelling
Like-
at you, telling
like-
you to
Yeah.
keep going.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday are my solo workout days. I have to have earbuds
Well, you got me there.
because otherwise my brain gets bored. And
Yeah,
then
but
I
what if
think
it's too
about the
quiet and you're
task.
trying to work out and the music's just barely too quiet and you can hear everything around you now?
My brain will focus on the quietness.
See, I can't.
of missing music.
My brain,
that'll be fine.
My brain wouldn't do it.
yeah,
I needed to drown out everything I'm trying to
And
ignore.
I have to have earbuds to work out.
yeah.
I have to have earbuds pretty much to work.
So do
now.
you work out solo?
Yes.
every session?
95% of the time.
So that 5%, when you have someone working out with you, is it a workout next to them or workout with them?
Probably next to them.
Okay, so you're a don't talk to me.
Exactly.
I gotta get this done.
Exactly.
I gotcha.
I have been known to have the face.
So I only get the face. I only get the face on days that I've already planned to work out solo, and like I'm doing something that's not like a strict one way or the other. Like if I'm going, I was like, all right, 45 minutes cardio. Don't talk to me. Just don't talk to me. And I've got the face, and I get like seriously irritated if interrupted, or like if someone else comes up. Like I used to go really early to the gym every Monday to Friday, and there's a certain clientele that goes to the YMCA at 6 a.m.
Oh man,
They're like 55 plus.
I was about to say.
It's a 55 plus crowd.
Did you
And
get changed
there
in the
was
locker room?
Are they
or-
power walking?
There's a sweet old lady that always saw me and thought like reminds me of my grandson. I don't know, but she would talk to me for the entire 45 minutes. And then this was like last October.
It's all
and then
right,
I went
Tim.
out of town for a week and I didn't show up. And then I decided that I'm just changing my entire workout schedule to avoid them.
Wow.
I was like, I'm not getting to work out. Like, and I don't want to be rude. So no, I get that.
So wait, how many days in a row did you go up here and this lady was talking to you? Was it like
Weeks.
Yeah,
Like, to a-
time to change the schedule.
Yeah.
Well, don't go to Planet Fitness.
I don't plan to.
Yes. Everybody will know you, and you will not work out at all.
No, I can't do that. Well, Adam, welcome to the show. And we promised you when you agreed to this that we were going to find some questions, right?
Let's go. Let's go.
All right. So I think I'm going to open with a question that I actually saw happen. Last year, you played for 901 basketball. And there was at least one game where the men's basketball team got, I think, 2 or possibly 3 technical fouls. One of which I saw was Mr. Chad, right? And then the one that followed that was yours. So what happened?
Oh, Lord. Me. That's what happened. If we're being honest, me happened, which
Right.
is usually the problem. But, you know, all right, if we're being honest,
I would hope so.
I definitely got a charge.
Yeah.
Probably a little frustrated.
Yeah.
A little fleshly coming out.
Yeah.
Probably a lot.
Yeah.
And then got up, turned around, passed the ball behind my back, and ran down the court. Honest to God, at that point, just saying, I'm an idiot for getting a charge. And the ref turned to me and said, hey, you have to sit out 10 minutes. And I was like,
Ooh.
what? And he goes, you got a technical for throwing the ball behind the back to
Yes.
me with an attitude. And I was like, okay. So I went and sat down and was confused. But looking back, probably no.
So as someone that was sitting in the crowd, so you were the second technical because
Yep,
Chad had
yep.
got one not 3 minutes earlier.
Yep.
When you threw it behind your back, there was no thought of you doing it. You weren't doing it on purpose with malice. And when they called technical, my wife and me and everyone was like, what? Like, what is this? This is like 100%. We were like, this is rigged. This is rigged.
Right,
100%
right.
rigged.
That sounds like bias,
It was a little bias.
right? You're like, how dare they
Now-
mess with our team?
Well, oh no, I meant on the ref's part. But no. And Chad, if you ever listen to this, yeah, that was a true technical on you. Yeah. All right. So here's another one. If I say you're being a hamburger right now, what does that mean?
You're probably, and here's what's funny is I've used this term before in Call of Duty.
I know.
That is so crazy. Oh, man. I always use hamburger because nobody likes hamburgers. I mean,
Like
everybody likes
cheeseburgers.
cheeseburgers.
Right.
Yeah. So if you're a hamburger, nobody likes you.
oh,
Like, just stop.
right. You need a little flavor.
So
You do. You need some mustard, ketchup, and pickle and onion.
Give me an example of you saying this in Call of Duty. Like play it out for us.
Oh gosh.
Like
that guy's 1-14 on your team.
Yes. Or the guy hasn't done anything and he's just let me lay there and die and he is a hamburger.
oh, I might be a hamburger in Call of Duty.
When you look up and he's just looking at you and he's like, come on, man, revive me. And he's like, no, I'm cool. And you're just like, all right, you are definitely a hamburger, a McDonald's hamburger with no cheese at that.
Ooh, no. That's a Beyond Meat hamburger, right?
Yeah, that's right.
All right, Jesse, you can ask him the last one here.
Look, you're gonna act like I'm supposed to remember it. All right, yeah. The first time you got the opportunity to do the welcome and prayer from service, tell us what happened from your perspective.
I love this one. This is so good. If there's ever been a humbling moment in my life, which there's been many, this one has to top the cake. But so first time by myself, because I had done the welcome and next steps with Brandy up there a couple of times. No big deal. First time though, it's like, all right, cool. So I think I'm ready. And I've read all my stuff. I'm like, man, we're good until you get up there by yourself.
Right.
And then I got up there and I was like, oh crap, just come on, let's go. And so welcome was, it was okay. Next steps what killed me though.
Okay.
Because there's always more in the next steps that you need to remember, that you need to communicate. And so I remember coming off the welcome and Wade just told me, hey, just energy. Just keep them hyped, just energy. And he's like, you're going to kill it. So I'm like, sure. So get up there on stage, get through all the stuff I need to say, and then get to the last part. I still don't even remember what I was supposed to say, honestly. And I went, and lastly, and it was the worst thing that could ever happen for a communicator, someone on stage. I couldn't see anybody. It was like I went blind.
Oh no!
I couldn't remember anything. And then it was like I came to and I looked, and this is no lie, Mark McCall, I love you, but he is staring a hole through my eyes. And Miss Jackie on the front row, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know. And I just threw my hands up and walked off the stage. Oh. And I remember, this is what makes it even funny. Golly, I love laughing at myself. I remember looking back at Wade, and Wade goes, well, all right, everybody have a great day. And I walked back through there, and I was like, you were an idiot. What just happened? And I think I made a joke probably prior that week about something like that happening, and it happened to me.
Oh, no.
So the Lord will humble you in every situation.
100%.
Oh, well, that's yeah, you're right, because
I work in production. I work in production for a reason.
And you know it's bad. So Brandy, love her to death. My wife Brandy, she is the most honest person when she talks to me. You know it's bad, but she's always sweet. It was bad when I walked down the hall past the bathrooms and she's standing there at the coffee bar.
Oh no.
And she was blushing for me. And she's like, babe, it's all right. And I was like, no, it's not.
None of you opened a conversation with babe, it's all right.
Yes.
No, we're done.
Yes. And she laughed at me. That was the funny thing.
No.
So all I could do was laugh with her.
What choice do you have?
You know, it's like, hey,
cry.
I'm just going to wash this off and I'm going to move on, you know.
Lessons learned.
Right.
But it is the running joke here, which I'm good with, by the way.
Wait, the running joke?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so get up there and pull
So
them out.
anytime someone gets up to do next
Whatever.
steps for the first time, I think Bethany was talking last week, and they were saying, "Hey, you're going to get up and do keep doing the next steps and stuff in youth," and she's like, "No, I just don't like it." And I said, "Well, hey, at least you don't get up and just go blank and throw your hands up and walk off stage." So it is definitely
That's
the running
awesome.
joke.
We should find a video clip of that.
Oh, 100%.
And
There is one.
There is one. There is one.
There 100%. There's one. Well, Adam, we wanted to invite you on to kind of poke at you a little bit, like we've done, but we wanted you to share your story with us because a lot of people, our listeners, our watchers, and even people at 901, they've seen your on the stage story, right? The one you present and the one that you go and do a testimony with. We want like the feelings and everything went with it because it's a wonderful story, but there's not a lot touching on like the emotion behind it and like the little things, and that's what we want to get into here. So if you would just take off.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are right. Like a lot of people just see me on Sunday, and so I'll just take it way back. Growing up, my dad was an alcoholic. Grew up, went to Emmanuel Lutheran Christian Church, which is over off of Raleigh-LaGrange. My mom was a school teacher. So battled back and forth with dad just being in and out of the house, and went to rehab a couple of times. He went to jail for 45 days for his third DUI. And so, dealing with that as a child is always tough.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when when you have other friends and families and you look at them going, man, why can't my family be this way? But my mom, man, she raised us the best that she could. Grandparents were amazing. My grandparents put me into a private school. They put all three of us in a private school. So I have two younger brothers, and we went to FACS. So when I graduated my little elementary school from Emmanuel, I went to FACS, and that's where I finished out. And so I was in the private school scene, but it took an interesting turn of events. So I played sports, basketball, football. I played competitive baseball growing up, just always involved in sports, but there was something I always longed for in high school was just to fit in. And so I got probably in not the best of friend groups, but I wanted to fit in. So, hey, when you want to fit in, you kind of compromise a lot of things, So looking back on it, it's like, yeah, I probably didn't make very smart decisions. I should have listened to my mom. But I actually got expelled from high school. So I got kicked out of FACS. And it was...
Hold on. Because you brought it up. We got to ask. Why?
For drinking.
Okay.
So, and I was excited about my senior year because I had practiced so much. So, playing sports basketball, I obviously love basketball, but going into the summer league and I'd practiced and I'd gone to camps and I was excited about basketball and I was excited about football. I just knew we were going to play good. I knew basketball was going to be my jam that year.
Right.
So football going into homecoming, and I just remember a group of guys were like, hey, man, we're going to go by and get some, alcohol. I'll pick you up. And I was like, all right, cool. And so I remember taking 2 sips. That's it. So I wasn't drunk by any means, but I took 2 sips of Parrot Bay. So if anybody's ever drank before, Parrot Bay is like Kool-Aid. But so I took 2 sips, and we went to the hayride. So we didn't, like for our homecoming, we did a hayride and a bonfire. So we showed up to that. And I remember the cheerleading coach coming up to me and saying, what's wrong with you? And I was like, what do you mean, what's wrong with me? And she said, I heard you were drunk. And I was like, I'm not drunk. And she said, I don't believe you. And so I was like, okay. Well, principal came up, talked to me later that night. Well, the next day I go in, they call me in. And so they said, hey, here's what happened. Here's what we believe happened. We heard from this source, and this source. And I'm sitting here going, okay. And they said, so because of that, we're actually expelling you from school.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, and I was taken back. I mean, as a young kid, you're like, wait, what? And so that bothered me a lot. But I did have people come in to school, donors, people that were on the team, their parents coming in and saying, hey, this is not right. Mm-hmm. Like, you shouldn't, like, for drinking.
Well, they took 3 sources and didn't even ask your side of it or try to figure it out. They were like, well, 3's enough, cut them out.
Yep. And and the reason I share that part is because it really sets the tone for the downslide of the next 8 years of my life until Brandy and I got married. So when that happened, obviously, I'm prideful and all sorts of things. So I said, okay, you guys want to see drinking? I'll show you drinking. And so I just went into like, I don't care. This is my life. You're going to do this. I'm going to do this. That was my mentality and posture, from about 18 to 19. And so started hanging out with some friends. I ended up going to Gateway and did homeschooling, ended up graduating. So I graduated. That was an exciting part of my life. But then about 2 years later, my grandfather had passed away. And so my grandfather was probably the most prominent father figure in my life.
Right.
Man of few words, but took care of me. Really, I look at a lot of things he's done, and he did. He was an entrepreneur. He owned his own business. He was big into church. And I just looked up to him. So when he passed away, that was when expelled from school, he passes away. I remember the day that he passed away. I was at Horseshoe Lake with a friend of mine. He passed away, so I did not get to see him before he passed. Went to the hospital, saw him before they took him back. That the day after was the day that it started. So I was just struggling with it bad. They're like, hey, let's go to this club. So we went to this club. And when I left that club, I never left the party.
Right.
For the next 8 years.
Yeah.
And so it was probably 6.5, but it was a lot of partying, a lot of drugs. It was arrested 3 times. And it was this ongoing back and forth. And I didn't really care. I was
Right.
I'm doing this. I remember my mom called me several times hey, I just haven't talked to you. Are you okay? And I mean, it was, if you asked me to recap those 6 years, I probably wouldn't be able to recap most of it because it was a blur.
Right.
And lots of scares and everything. But the third time that I was arrested, that was the moment that I said to myself, and I remember Brandy and I were dating, and she came and got me. I spent the night in jail, and they had told me, they said, hey, we think we're going to get this expunged off your record, but if not, you are probably going to go to jail with a felony. And I was like, crap. And so my lawyer at the time said, he goes, man, you're a good kid. He's like, I can tell your demeanor. He said, just do the right thing. Don't be stupid. You've already been stupid enough. Quit being stupid. And he's like, and I'm going to try my hardest to do that. So I remember sitting at that table listening to him, and I was like, you know what? He's right. I don't know this guy. He could tell me anything, but he's my attorney. He's like, just quit being stupid. And I'm like, duh. And so I remember my truck got impounded, and I lied to everybody. Family members, brothers, people I worked for. They're like, where's your truck? Why is Brandy having to take you to work? Why are you having to do all of this? But it was impounded.
Right.
And I couldn't get it out. And so I was making up lies hey, my transmission's messed up. I can't afford it. I got to work 2 jobs. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. Long story short with that is everything got expunged. It all got kicked out. So it's no longer on my record. But even at that, I just said to myself, I was like, I have to do something different. I really do. A year later, Brandy and I get married.
How old are you at this point?
I'm 26 now.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's a really big gap there that I don't remember much,
Well, it's a lot of forget tomorrow. Let's figure out what we're doing tonight.
I mean, days run together.
Yeah.
They literally do. Day 4 or 5, you're looking back going, wait, what's going on here?
It's Tuesday?
People are getting up and going to work, and you're just still going with whatever you're doing. And so Brandy and I get married, and I had never up until that point had, I would say, I had okay jobs, but I just told myself, I was like, man, I have to get my life together. I need to get a decent job. I need to make something of myself. Marrying the love of my life, we plan on having kids, but I'm not going to do that if I'm doing this, know. And Brandy and I have made longstanding relationships with a lot of our friends, but a lot of them are still kind of stuck in the same, in the same rut. Some of them have come out of it, and we every once in a while we'll see our friends, we'll hang out with them and talk with them and catch up with them and stuff. But so we got married, and I just started making some better choices. I ended up getting a pretty decent job at EDR, worked there for 7.5 years, traveled all over the United States. So mind you, this is my first real job.
Right.
My first real job. And so
That's a good stick for to land a first real job and be there 7.5 years.
Yes.
That's a really good flip.
Yep. And I'm honestly very loyal to a fault in that. And I got that from my grandfather because even though he owned his own business, he was very big on like, hey, you go to work, you work for them, you give it your all, you stay with them, like don't jump around. So I really took that. I wouldn't have left EDR, honestly, if it wouldn't have been bought out by another company.
Right.
But I worked with some great individuals. One of the best leaders that I know, Chris Richards, was the chief operating officer there. She's amazing, and she's one of the reasons why I stayed and even had the drive I did, because she was such a good leader.
Awesome.
Greystar bought that out. I looked for another job, and I was traveling 40 weeks out of the year.
Yeah.
So I missed 7 years of Ridge's life, really.
Right.
You know, just traveling, and all he knew was me gone. That was all he knew. I mean, when Rhodes was born, he was born 2 weeks later. I'm traveling for 4 weeks straight, and Rhodes is left at the house with Brandy and just hanging out. I mean, but it was just what I knew.
Right.
And so nearing the end of that, I was just really looking. I was like, man, I just want something different. Like I want to be at home. And I was tired of missing the kid's life. You know, Brandy had just grown accustomed to it. You know, you just grow accustomed to traveling and stuff like that. And there were perks that came to it, but I was just ready to stop. And so I had an opportunity at another one of my employers, Contractors Inc. And this is where, you know, the Lord will just start to, you know, put you in a different place. And so when we left EDR, I was getting ready to start Contractors Inc. and we found 901 Church. And so Brandy was going through a very tough time at her previous employer, was dealing with some friendship hurt. A friend had pretty much betrayed her and did some wrongdoing. And she was just really struggling. I mean, I didn't know what to do. Like, honestly, I'm sitting here going, I have no clue what to do for her in this moment except to just be here.
Right.
And so her mom said, hey, I think you need to go to this church. And Brandy says, what are you talking about? And she's like, yeah, there's this cool church. The pastor, he's really young. He dresses really good. Like he's got really cool hair. And, you know, it's so vibrant.
Really
you know?
cool hair.
Exactly. And so she tells Brandy this. Well, Brandy says, you know what? I'll go to church with you, Mom. So Brandy says, hey, you want to go to church? I said, no, church is not for me. And so if you go back to me going to a Christian private school, I was kind of burned by that experience.
Right.
I'm like, why do I want to go in church when these people judged me? These people kicked me out. You know, these people just left me to burn and wallow in my own self-pity. But so I said, no, I'm not going. Well, she went. She loved it. She came back. She raved about it. She said, man, he's so good. He's amazing. It's not like your typical church. And I said, okay, cool. Well, I still didn't want to go. I stayed at home with the kids. And I guess my first moment where maybe I was just feeling something different, we're coming into Millington and Brandy was reading a text. She's a little bit emotional. And I just looked at her and I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go to church with you. And I just remember her breaking down. And so I went to church the following week and I've never left since.
That's awesome.
And so there was just something different about 901 Church. The fun fact about that is that my mother-in-law had prayed for 12 years
Wow.
for us to get into church together. 12 years, every day, had prayed that Brandy and I would find well, I guess at that time it was 10 years. Now it's 12. But anyways, that we would find a church. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny that she went to the church and invited Brandy, and then Brandy went, and then I ended up going, and we've never left since.
Prayer works.
It does. And so I, working at this new job, and what I thought was going to be better because I'm at home just turned out to be more stress. So I made more money. So I'm making, lots of money.
What was more stress? What do you mean?
More stress, just the so traveling was not stressful to me, but being in managing 3 offices with 20 project managers and a $25 million budget, and it's all sales. So
okay, yeah.
when construction work or projects aren't going right, who gets the call. It's
Right.
it's usually me. Well, why is it over budget? Well, why is this? Well, why is that? Why is this person quitting? And so, even in that moment, that was probably my first real my first real big boy management job, director of operations, and I did good at it. Like, probably not great, made some missteps, but I did good at it. And within a year, I got promoted to senior director of operations. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, I've made it.
Right.
So if I ever had one goal, now they've all changed, but one childhood goal was like, hey, I want to make over 6 figures. I want to have a nice house and a decent family, and all is good. Mm-hmm. Man, I don't have to be rich. Just give me enough money where I can do what I want, maybe buy something, take a trip.
Comfortable.
Just want to be comfortable. And I had that. And I'm like, oh man, this is great. But I really wasn't comfortable, because sometimes the more money you make doesn't always give you happiness.
It's something that going through life, I've been jobless and I've been in good jobs, I've been in bad jobs. Money isn't the factor to make something better. It's just a multiplier of what you are, what you are currently. And I've had discussions about that with a friend, and it's like, even if like I play the lotto that I don't win, or I win the lotto that I don't play, like what would you do with the money? And the question was put recently. It's like, well, I've always told my wife, like, I would want to open up like another at-risk youth camp kind of thing. Like, he's like, well, that's what the multiplier would do. That's what you would do. I was like, well, yeah, I guess money isn't the bad. It's the bad in you that would be multiplied.
Yep. And especially when you don't have any good habits or it's amplified.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I think sometimes too, you can luck up on a good job, but you haven't learned and you haven't built the groundwork of good stewardship for money and finances and stuff. So that is what there was some of that had happened to me too. And I was like, oh man, I'm making good money here. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do this. And so, but I mean, even in all of that, we're going to 901 Church, we're giving. I mean, I'm just doing something. We're just enjoying life. That's what we are. And then the Lord just wants to go. And I remember Easter. We had a great Easter service. I just remember coming here, and if I remember correctly, we may have only had like 200 people show up to like maybe and I remember I was crying and I was like, God is so good and it's so amazing. Like the light, how can it get any better? The church is growing, my job's going well. And I was supposed to go on a director's meeting in Atlanta that week. And so I'm driving down. I wake up Monday morning. Let me rewind. Brandy and I go home, watch Passion of the Christ. We're emotionally vested, and we're just like, gosh, this is just amazing. My boss calls me on Monday and he says, hey, can you stop by the office? And he's like, I got to talk to you about something, and then we can head out. And I was like, all right. So that not unusual.
Seems normal.
Normal.
Before we head out.
Before we head out, I go in. He sits me down at the conference table, and which is even that wasn't abnormal, because I'm like, all right, cool. What are we going to talk about? Because we're going to a director's meeting. Maybe he wants to talk about something. And he says, hey, remember, we've been doing a lot of strategic counseling. We've got a company coming in. They're strategically aligning everything. They're looking at our structure. And I said, yeah. And he said, well, they're eliminating the senior director position in Memphis because of how we're going to structure the company.
Doesn't support it anymore.
He's like, so I'm letting you go.
Oh.
And I was like, okay. yeah.
And
all right.
And all of a sudden, everything seems pretend, doesn't it?
I remember the look, and mind you, I'm going to say this so don't laugh, but my boss's name was Money Riley. I mean, talk about a name. Good friend of mine, though. I mean, he really was. And talk about it's a hard thing to do, to have to do that.
Definitely.
He was as upset as I was to have to do that, And so I just remember I was in shock. I text Brandy. I said, hey, I just got let go. Can you come? So she's freaking out. She calls Pastor. I honestly, in that moment, thought to myself, what a failure. All the shame, the guilt, just like everything was like coming down on me, because as a husband, right? Oh my gosh, we're the head of the household, man. We need to be able to provide. We need to make money for our families. We need to take care of them. Well, when you don't have a job, or you've been let
place to
go,
be.
it's like, you just start questioning so many things.
Oh, yeah.
And so, but Pastor did what Pastor always does. And he shows up the next day and just loves on me and encourages me at the house. And I'm just sitting here going, this doesn't, like, what?
Right.
You know, I'm not used to this.
Yeah, you're not used to the pastor of your church, like,
Yeah.
showing up, be like, dude, you lost your job, but I'm here for you.
Yeah, move staff to another day, staff meeting,
Yeah.
which is important, and we love it around here. But moved it to come to my house to encourage and love on me.
That's awesome.
And so it was just this, you know, it's super cool to be able to have that, you know, and to have that love and encouragement from him, because it really doesn't happen. So, but I just told myself, I said, man, look, I'm going to take a break. So for a month, I didn't do anything. And then I'll figure out what I want to do. Probably going to open my own business, do whatever. And so after that month was when the Holy Spirit started working on me. And so I remember coming up, Pastor texts me at the time, this time, Brandy's on staff, and he says, hey, man, you can come to staff if you want. And I was like, okay, whatever. He's like, man, if you're just sitting at the house, just come. So I was like, all right, cool. So I showed up. And there was all this work that had to be done. This hallway was not here. This room was not here.
No.
Pastor's office was not here. It looked like literally the dungeon. And so Pastor said, hey, while you're not doing anything, you know, there's some stuff up at the church, you know, if you want to come and do it, you know, do some painting or whatever. And I was like, sure, I'll do it. I remember it vividly. I was up here by myself, just doing my thing, just painting and everything, and just really thinking, like, what's my next step? What am I going to do? You know? And I remember the Holy Spirit telling me, you just need to work. Do what I say, and I will provide.
Oof.
Do the work at the church. And I'm like, at the time, now I know what I was hearing.
Right.
At the time, I'm like, what? You know, seriously? And it wasn't, I heard it twice, because the second time was just do what I asked you to do. So I stayed for 2.5 weeks. I worked every day up here, and completed a lot of the pastors now, his office now, and some of the green room stuff and stuff behind stage and all of that, and just really donated my time and did that. And no payment, no anything. I just did that. Well, then Pastor says, man, you need to start coming to staff. If you want to, just open invite. Well, at that time, Mark had reached out to me, and Mark was a super pivotal person in my life at this point in time, as far as encouragement, giving me scripture. It's like, hey, man, look, the Lord's going to provide. He's going to do, just trust in him. You know, just listen. And I said, all right. Well, Mark said, hey, how about you come and work for me, or work with me? And so Mark and I just kind of went into business, and us, together for about 9 months. But Mark told me this. He said, here's the thing. He said, I don't know what this is going to entail. He said, I don't know if, we're going to get into insurance work. I'd like to do this. I'd like to do that. He's like, but you never know what the Lord wants you to do.
Right.
And, so here's what you're going to do. Let's do this thing. He said, the Lord's going to provide. I just know it. I just know you're not going to go a day without a bill being missed, without cell phone being paid, without your house payment being paid. The Lord is going to provide everything if you put your trust in him and you do it. And he did. He provided I didn't miss one bill. We never missed a bill. We never quit tithing, which we've heard on the video that we showed the church.
Right.
And since then, we've continued to increase tithing, throughout the time. And I don't make nowhere near as much money as I do, but never missed a bill. Well, Mark said, there's going to come a point where you will know where you should be, where you've been called, whether you've been called to own your own business or whether you've been called to work at the church. He said, you'll find out. Well, 9 months after that, I was spending more time up here, and Cole and I was working up here together, off and on, but I was spending more time at the church than I was trying to grow my business. And Mark called me up one day and he says, hey, man, there's something on my heart I need to tell you. And I said, what is it? He goes, your heart is where the church is. And he said, I believe God's calling you to be in ministry. And he said, I don't believe he's calling you to own your own business. And I said, okay. You know, because I mean, I'm still learning all.
That's
Right.
a nice default answer you
yeah,
got there.
I'm
Like,
like,
we're
all
letting
right.
you go.
All right, cool.
Okay.
And he said, I just believe it. And I'm like, all right. And so, here I am today. I mean, I would have never thought I would have been here.
Right.
Everything I've done up until this point disqualifies me in the world's eyes from even sitting in this chair.
Right.
But yet here I am.
It's funny because like the first half, right? Your first part of your story is, I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm going to provide. I'm going to do all these things. And then you get to this part of the story and it's like, I can't do it.
I can't provide. I can't
provide.
do it.
But then the Holy Spirit says, no, you're going to do what I tell you to do.
Yep.
So, it's this pivot from me to, okay, Lord, what do you have? What do you have? And I think it's fantastic.
So I love the imagery of you doing the work and trying to figure out what your next step is. As you're doing the work, that is your next step. Like
Yes.
the
Hindsight,
Hey, it kind of goes back to your lawyer. Stop being stupid.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, yeah.
The Holy Spirit will 100% smack you with that.
Oh, yeah.
Like just like, hey, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Stop thinking about the stuff that you think you want.
Right.
And I think that's such a change of space to go from having enough money to being comfortable, right? So that's a new Ford Raptor. I'm gonna buy that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and I'm not saying that having a Ford Raptor is a bad thing. I'd love to have one. Don't think the Holy Spirit says in my cards.
Right. Yeah.
But to go from that mind space and within a couple years be in the mind space of I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills, but the Holy Spirit's going to provide.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that's an amazing jump.
I mean, it's when you, at least for me, when you're walking in obedience and you're trying to walk in the will of God, and honestly, I'm uncomfortable all the time. I really am. I mean, there's no comfort half the time. The only comfort I find is I know that the Lord is guiding me in every step and He's going to provide. But I'm growing. There's so much growth and it is so uncomfortable.
Comfortability is the enemy of growth.
And anytime you remove yourself and you humble yourself, it is so counterintuitive to what the world is telling you to do.
100%.
Yep.
And that's uncomfortable for me. And I mean, I kind of look back and where I thought everything that I wanted, house, money, job, company, truck, all of that, that's what I thought I wanted, has all been taken away from me.
Yep.
So that my mind, like everything that I do can be fixated on something different and greater than me.
Yeah.
I mean, we sold our house last year. Now I'm working at. There's just so many big changes, but they've all happened for a reason, and they all put me where I need to be right now.
That's awesome.
So it's been. I'm telling you, it's been a wild ride, but
It's not over yet.
Well, I was about
it
to
is
say,
not
this
over.
It's not over.
You're going to look back one day and this is going to seem like the beginning.
Yeah, I know.
Well, and what's really cool is like you have video evidence, like not only the testimony you've put forward to the church, but a little more insight to Adam going through this. I have one more question.
Yeah, shoot it.
All right. Mariah Carey.
Sorry.
So there's a relationship now you have with a specific song because of us.
Yes.
Could you explain it just to her? We're gonna close on this because I love this story. You don't understand the encouragement I got for you sharing this, like for us, because we started this as a hobby. We were like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Like hearing you talk about it, and go ahead and share the story because it's so encouraging for us.
Yes. I wish I knew where Brandy and I were coming from when we were listening to your episode and you guys were talking about songs and you had talked about Mariah Carey, All I Want for Christmas. And you were like, no, it's just annoying. It just is. And, I'm driving and I'm sitting here thinking, I can sympathize with that. Like, 100%. They play it too much. Like redo the song.
Yes.
I love it. She's great and awesome, but just redo it, freshen it up, something. Quit playing it over and over and over. Every time
Exactly.
Christmas comes on, it's on. As soon as I had heard you guys talk about that, we walked into Dirt Cheap. I remember it. And I walk in and I'm like, what in the world? I'm about to text Tim and Jesse right now because they are playing this song in here. This is not cool.
Yep.
And I remember looking at Brandy and we just started laughing. We just
That's
started
awesome.
laughing. And I'm like, come on.
You were one of our first like outside of like our circle of influence cheerleaders. Like we were like, whoever
Yeah.
is listening is listening.
Thanks
Yeah.
for listening, world. We don't
Yeah.
know who you are.
Yeah.
So
But
it was an eye opening moment
It
a little bit.
was.
It's like, oh man, people were actually starting to listen to this thing. That's
Yep.
we're starting to gain a little influence, and it's like it's also like a humbling
Oh,
responsibility.
big time. I was like, what I've had. So then after you did that, I had other people walk up and like mention stuff that was mentioned in podcasts. Like, how do you know this? And they're like, you talked about it. I was like, I did. But Adam, thank you so much. Not only for like coming and sharing your story, but being that supporter that we have behind the scenes, listening to our random talking squirrel moments that we record. And thank you for sharing a hate for All I Want for Christmas.
Yes.
Yep.
But for Cutscene Conversations, I'm Tim.
I'm Jesse.
I'm Adam.
We'll see you next time.